I think this will be the last stat we focus on. So TCV, Amir.
Yeah, and not necessarily TCV, because we're talking about, okay, Palantir, it's all about the future. What tools do we have to gauge the future? What would give investors confidence? And I think this specific metric, it shows you how much worth of contracts they signed within the quarter. And as Arnie shared on his Substack and his newsletter, I think yesterday, Palantir signed a lot of deals in Q4. So I think we might even see a new all-time high for Q4 here. And that shows a lot of strength, because this directly ties into first, we have the deal breakdown that they like to show, like, okay, how many deals did we close? What is the size of the various deals? Like, they break it down to 1 to 5 million, 5 to 10, and above 10. That's all comprised of the total contract value, which then is broken down into remaining deal value and stuff like that. Like, that's outstanding for Palantir to come and collect with options. But this specifically, I think, will be very important. I know not a lot of people care about total contract value, but I do, because it shows us the contract activity, and we need that to accelerate. As you can see, like, our all-time high is in 2022. Not even after AIP, after boot camps, are we signing like a lot of contract value. So I think this needs to accelerate, and I believe, given like all the news we have from Q4, like the Maven, like Arnie compiled a whole list that is sent out to his Substack, I believe, Palantir Bullets. I think we will see something very strong for Q4 that will directly translate into, okay, we know how much contract value we have signed, and those contracts can be anything from 1 to 5 years. So it's not, while it doesn't show up in revenues immediately, it shows us how much of a backlog of revenues there are to collect over time, which is very important when we're talking about a company like Palantir, that we say, well, it's all about the future. Well, how is that stacking up into the future? So I believe we will hit an all-time high. Like, when we're talking Q4 earnings expectations and previews, I think this metric is one that I'm really looking to see a new all-time high in total contract value, and that will signal a lot of confidence in future revenue generation that I don't see a lot of people talk about, but I think this one is actually turning out to be quite important for this quarter.
Emir, if we look at this chart, it seems a little bit disappointing. Let's say that we see this chart without knowing that revenues are actually expanding, everything is going well. If we look at this chart as a standalone basis, that is not really aligned with the story that we know is happening, that more and more clients are adopting Palantir and the existing ones are very happy to expand. What do you think there's the case of that chart not being that strong in a total contract value contracted?
It actually is very strong. I mean, this is on a quarterly basis. I mean, the run rate per year for 2023 was like 2.23 billion. But just on the trailing 4 quarters here, we've signed like almost 4 billion of total contract value. So it's like the run rate, like, it doesn't look like just straight to the moon. I guess that's what you're talking about. But if you actually look at the total contract value that they've signed, it's way ahead of revenues. And I expect this to actually start to accelerate now, especially considering it's no longer like people don't shy away from saying, yeah, we work with Palantir. Like a few years ago, like people asked Palantir not to disclose that they were partners, that they were paying Palantir. It was a black box, bad media narrative. Now it's changing. Now people want, like, they are lining up to use Palantir. So that's why I think this will start to increase. But I don't think it looks weak at all if you just look at the actual numbers and compare it to revenues. I mean, there's a lot of revenue expectations built in, like even on a trailing 12 months basis. I think this is really strong, but I'm expecting it to be even stronger. And that's what I mean when I say this really signals what kind of revenue growth we can start to expect from Palantir into the future, because they will likely start to sign a lot of big deals. We know, like, just the Maven contract was like $500 million in Q4, right? And that just starts to stack up. That's why I believe we have a lot of revenue generation to be had, and we can get a preview of that by looking at how much contract value they sign per quarter.
Okay. Absolutely agree. Personally, I asked that question because if you ask me, okay, what kind of total deal value do you think is happening right now, considering all the information that we have, I think I would have expected a chart that was more aligned with the revenue growth, like spiking up much more. And I was surprised to see that yes, improving. I personally expected something more, and I was wondering why. Now, just a little. Can you share the screen, please, just to show that this is the deal activity that happened in the last quarter, and we can see it was pretty intense. Especially the big one was this $600 million contract for years with the army, essentially an expansion of the existing platform on top of which Palantir has been already working for a long time. So now it's not that we can literally take a 600 divided by 4 because there are some like overlapping in terms of contracts. This is maybe the total value of the potential value of the contract, but we need to consider it as a signal. Okay, the army is really willing to spend big money into something, and the more money it spends into something, the more they will keep spending on top of that. So that's important to underscore. And you can see that there are many partners that are emerging partners, like Anduril. Like this one is very big. Then we have Shield AI partnering to deploy warp speed, and we are seeing the narrative shift towards also not only AAP but warp speed. Also in the new video that Palantir shared just yesterday or 2 days ago with Hyundai, where they underscored that we are using Palantir from the design, from the production, to literally everything, which was, oh, this sounds very warp speed. And I think we will keep seeing these playing around. And this quarter deal activity compares with the Q3. So we see fewer, like less activity, and with last year. Like we had very good deals, but just visually you could see there was much more activity this quarter. These are press releases. Now people are even complaining that, oh, we are not getting too many press releases in January, but because in December, like in the Q4, we got literally so many. One dynamic that I would put the attention on, if we think of that chart that you showed, almost like growing, but growing steadily rather than exponentially. One potential reason could be the shift from having big contracts into pushing more into consumption. Because if you push more into consumption, you don't strike a $50 million deal. You strike a deal that is smaller in nature, but the more you consume, the more you spend. And these contracts tend to be different in structure. Like the normal subscription is, okay, you sign 50, and then the more you go into the contract, you recognize that 50 divided by the period. With consumption pricing, the counting is very different. So probably you start with a smaller account, a smaller total deal value at the beginning, but you just see the revenues expanding because if customers just use Palantir more, they spend more. And that's why I think it is very important to put the attention. Like we know we need to focus into revenues and so on. But what really matters is are existing customers so happy to use Palantir more? Because if that is the answer, we will just get a lot more revenues just from happy customers. If you are happy, you consume more. That's simple as that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And what you just said also explains why our all-time high was actually in 2022 and not a recent period. Because at that time, typically you would sign like the contract might be for like 5 years, but it was like big. So that's why it really added up. Now there might be a lot shorter time frames and a lot smaller, just like as you mentioned, to scale up from a smaller point and going up, because they switched to a consumption-based model. So that explanation makes a lot of sense. And as we mentioned, the scale up of their current customer base is what really matters. As we talked about before, the net dollar retention, the customer count growth, and stuff like that.
All right. I think we end it there. We actually have something fun to end on. First of all, let me just read the super chat by Nunzio. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Thank you for staying up late to do the show. P.S. I hope you watch Billy Madison this weekend. I hope I get time to watch that movie this weekend as well.
It's literally one of my favorites, Amit. You got to do it.
Yeah, I'm supposed to watch it like 2 weeks ago, and
It's all right.
I have not watched it yet.
How is
But,
your movie culture course improving?
Dude, I fell asleep to a podcast about the Soviet Union a couple days ago over a movie. That's how bad it is. I can't focus on the movies. I don't know. I just can't focus on the movies. But I can focus on anything else.
Like what? I'm kind of curious now. What was the Soviet Union podcast about?
It was about the Soviet Union. And then I had a dream, and I didn't tell the story in the market open, but I had a dream. I was in Russia, and it was like they wouldn't let
Russian
me go to
meetup.
Dude, no, they wouldn't let me go to the bathroom by myself. Like it was like literal communism. Like it was just dictatorship, and like someone had to follow me into the bathroom because they thought I was gonna like escape or something. It was a crazy dream, bro. Insane dream. But the point is, I fall asleep to these types of podcasts versus watching movies. That's the issue.
You're like, this new generation is so cooked. Like one of the greatest trilogies ever made that will go down in history, Lord of the Rings. Like he covers this stock every day. He can't even watch Lord of the Rings. This generation is cooked. I don't know what to
I remember going to the theaters at midnight to go see Lord of the Rings, and it was just epic. Like,
dude, who goes to the theaters anymore? Is that a thing?
That was back in the day.
Well, it was a different experience. Like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. Like if you look at it from the eyes of a younger generation, they're just okay. But for our generation, they were like completely out of the league compared with all the other things that were out there. So that's why we deeply care about them.
But we didn't have Netflix. We didn't have like HBO Max and
but even with Netflix and HBO Max, dude, I'd rather choose to like listen to a podcast about the Soviet Union as I fall asleep versus turn on a Netflix show. It's weird, bro. It's very weird. I don't know how my brain works, but it is what it is. This is how we end the show here. Elon did tweet about Alex Karp. So Sarah Eisen, who is the CNBC host that posted about him today, did quote Alex when he said, "The two CEOs that went to Israel who run publicly traded companies are Elon and I. Whatever you think of Elon calling him a Nazi, especially since it seems to be highly correlated to having been supportive of essentially the Hamas wing of the terrorist movement in some ways, completely absurd and like a complete rewrite of history." Karp was defending Elon against a lot of the hate he's been getting over the past week. Elon responded, "Alex Karp is awesome," which is nice to see. He's been sharing a lot more of Karp's posts and reposting his videos and Palantir content in general. These guys are relatively friendly with each other. And so it's cool to see both of them in the limelight as two of the most important tech CEOs on the planet right now.
Look how cute they are.
So cute.
It seems Elon Musk is literally on like being happy to be associated with Palantir now.
Yes.
Because look, this is not really something that happens frequently, at least as far as I follow Twitter. Still Twitter, not X. But can you share the screen? Like even a couple of days ago, he shared this. Like he reacted to the official post of the Palantir account of Shamsankar explaining why reforms on the DoD are truly needed to make America staying strong. And true, like, okay, simple sentence, but we see signs that Elon is happy to be in that constellation of people. Obviously, the fact that there is also David Sachs, all these people in the constellation of the government helps, but at least from the shareholder standpoint, I'm happy to see Palantir is aligned to this new administration, even if Karp was not fully supportive from his personal political view. I think that is very important to see, seeing that the values of a company are more important to people around the government than the actual political belief of Palantir CEO alone.